It is June 1936, and a trial with radical left-wing politics is taking place in the Palace of Justice in the Romanian town of Brașov. One of its members is the future Romanian president, the 18-year-old Nicolae Ceaușescu. His involvement in the illegal Communist Party ended with a 2.5-year sentence in prison. This is not the first or last time, but it is the contacts that Ceausescu makes during his stays in prison that will ultimately help him on his path to power. Nicolae Ceaușescu was born on the 26th of January 1918 in the Romanian town of Scornicești into a family of poor farmers. Without finishing elementary school, he went to work in Bucharest as a shoemaker's apprentice. It was there that he got his first whiff of politics. He was so taken by left-wing ideas that he joined the then illegal Communist Party of Romania at the age of 14. In the 1930s, Ceausescu distributed leaflets in the Romanian capital of Bucharest against the state system headed by King Carol II. He instigated strikes by workers and organized meetings of like-minded people. At one of these meetings, the then 21-year-old Nicolae met the activist Elena Petrescu, whom he married 8 years later. Elena would become the most powerful and also the most feared woman in the country, whom no one would dare call anything other than the mother of the nation. During the Second World War, Ceausescu was a member of the National Anti-Fascist Committee, and with the label of a dangerous communist agitator, he alternated illegal activities with stays in prison. In 1943, he was transferred from Jilava prison to the internment camp Târgu Jiu. It was here, at that time as a relatively insignificant member of the party, that he established relations with the top leaders of the Romanian communist movement, including Gheorghiu Dej. It was this meeting that would be crucial to Ceausescu's future political career. Romania sided with Germany for a long time during the Second World War, but in 1940, a coup took place in the country. On the 23rd of August, King Michael dissolved the pro-Nazi government, and the Romanian army then declared a unilateral truce with the Russian army. The changes were also supported by Dej's communists, who elected him General Secretary of the party in October 1944. However, the alliance of Dej with King Michael was short-lived. Dej, supported by the Soviet leadership after the war, forced King Michael to abdicate in December 1947. A few hours later, the parliament, fully controlled by the communists and their allies, abolished the monarchy and declared Romanian People's Republic. From that moment on, Gheorghiu Dej was the most powerful man in Romania. It was thanks to him that Ceausescu climbed even higher up the power ladder. In March, at the age of 48, he was elected as a member of parliament, just one of many for now, but he will make his presence known in the coming year. As Deputy Minister of Agriculture, he ordered forced collectivization. When the local peasants in the town of Vaduroșca begin to rebel against it the following year, Ceausescu, by then already a deputy in the Ministry of Armed Forces, sends the army to the site and orders live ammunition to be fired. 9 people are killed. Others are seriously wounded. In 1954, as the newly elected Secretary of the Central Committee, he became the second most powerful man in the country. He remains in this position for the next 11 years. In the year 1965, Gheorghiu Dej died, and 3 days later, the Central Committee was elected. Nicolae is the new General Secretary of the party, and therefore, the new ruler of the country. Ceausescu's first steps as head of the country brought hope, both to Romanians and to the world. He was trying to kickstart a better economy, encourage the development of industry, and had schools built to help raise literacy rates. He also partially attenuated censorship. In foreign policy, he continued what his predecessor started. He did not view the Soviet Union as an authority, and he established diplomatic relations with the West. In August 1968, he dismissed the invasion of Czechoslovakia by Warsaw Pact troops. Romania was the only member country that did not participate.
Pătrunderea trupelor celor 5 țări socialiste în Ceoslovacia constituie o mare greșeală și o primejdie gravă pentru pacea în Europa pentru soarta socialismului în lume.
Ceausescu is described as the most popular communist in the West at the time, but everything would change soon. In 1971, he visited China and North Korea. There, he is captivated not only by the ovations and boundless tributes he receives, but also by the system of national transformation, a plan for rapid economic rise through the strengthening of heavy industry, introduced by the Korean Workers' Party. On his return home, Ceausescu announces what is known in Romania as the systematization program. The goal of this program was to create new urban areas by converting villages into miniature cities. In 1974, Ceausescu will be elected president for life. He removes several officials who originally supported him and appoints his personal friends or family members to the most important posts. His wife Elena, for example, not only becomes the first female prime minister, but she also presides over the Romanian Academy of Sciences, even though she has not even finished elementary school. Moreover, Ceausescu creates a large-scale cult about himself. He is displayed on every corner, and Romanian artists have only two options: either languish or support and glorify their leader. Works of art are created at lightning speed. For example, Ceausescu's birthday is the biggest event every year, involving grand celebrations and mass parades that highlight the president's personal qualities and countless achievements. The Palace of the Parliament will become a symbol of the Ceausescu regime. It is the second largest administrative building in the world after the US Pentagon. With 11 of its rooms made up of marble and gold, many staircases and hallways, and a fallout shelter. The building took 10 years to build and regularly used up to 25% of Romania's gross domestic product. However, because of the president's paranoia, no documentation was kept in the palace. Workers and designers always knew only the part they were working on. It was the megalomaniac projects, the disruption of agriculture, and the ill-advised industrialization in the 1980s that would cause economic disruption throughout the country. To be able to pay its debts, Romania will begin to export a large part of the country's agricultural and industrial production abroad. The result? Romania has become one of the poorest countries in Europe. The people here lack everything: food, fuel, medicine. Many tourists remember Romanian children begging for chewing gum. At the time, even a pack of decent cigarettes or a bag of coffee was highly valuable to the local people. In the second half of the 1980s, riots broke out in the country, culminating in a mass protest in the city of Brașov. 20,000 workers walked off the job and marched toward the communist headquarters in November of 1987, shouting slogans such as "Down with Ceausescu," "Down with communism," and "We want bread." With the help of the dreaded secret police, the Securitate, they managed to disperse the demonstrators, but the Brașov rebellion causes issues for the Ceausescu regime. On the 16th of December 1989, a public protest broke out in Timișoara in response to an attempt by the government to evict Hungarian Reformed Church pastor Laszlo Tokes. This was ordered by the court after Tokes criticized the Ceausescu regime on Hungarian television. As punishment, he was to leave his parish in Timișoara and move to the countryside. Many people disagreed and gathered around his home to protect him from harassment and eviction. However, after it turns into a demonstration against the regime, Ceausescu calls in the army, which uses tanks and firearms against the demonstrators. The exact number of casualties is not known, but it is estimated that 70 people died in Timișoara during the week. The self-confident Ceausescu considers the whole matter settled and flies off on a state visit to Iran. When he returns on December 20th and finds that the protests in the country have continued to spread, he makes a televised speech describing the organizers as foreign-controlled terrorists and calls a rally in Bucharest's Palace Square the following day to support him. During his speech, however, the crowd of 100,000 people boo him and start chanting slogans calling for his overthrow. Surprised and, above all, terrified, Ceausescu is unable to finish his speech. protest is suppressed by the army. The next day, however, even the soldiers side with the hundreds of thousands of demonstrators who take to the streets again. On the same day, Ceaușescu attempts to finish his speech for the second time. However, he and his wife have to flee from the enraged crowd to the roof of the party headquarters, where they are picked up by a helicopter. But the escape doesn't last long. After the pilot drops them off, the Ceaușescus wander through the field, but are soon captured by a member of the local militia and taken to the military base Târgoviște, near Bucharest. By then, the National Salvation Front had taken over the country with a group of former communist officials and other prominent members of the fallen regime, supplemented by a few dissidents. The former Ceausescu collaborator and now interim president Ion Iliescu had a decisive say in what was to happen next. In the chaos that will engulf the country, the number of victims will go from 100 to more than 1,000. Ceausescu and his wife had 3 days to live at the time of their arrest. The Ceausescus were tried before a court that would sentence them to death. Nicolae and Elena Ceaușescu are shot later that week at a military base. The speedy trial and the footage of the execution, which were broadcast on Romanian television, created a sense of satisfaction among many Romanians, but were viewed as shameful in the world. The story of a man who was the leader of Romania for almost a quarter of a century ends. A man who had himself called the genius of the Carpathians, or the conductor, led his country to omnipresent poverty. And because Romania's path to freedom in 1989 was the only bloody one, Nicolae Ceaușescu himself paid a price higher than any other communist leader from the former Soviet bloc countries.